Hello everyone. This is another video on the Oracle Performance Tuning series, and today we'll talk about server performance and how to use different tools available to troubleshoot any uh, server performance and how to find out whether it's related to your database and also understand few things on the server side. So let's start. So the most popular command that is available on and I'm in a Unix server. I'm talking about only Unix now. It is the top command. So anytime you get a complaint that there is a performance issues going on the data uh, going on, and it could be database. So most probably first thing you will come to the server and uh, run the top command and check how is the server performance looking. Is the server overloaded? So first thing you'll do is you run the top command. So let's understand the output of the top command. So when you just run top and hit enter, you'll see this output. It keeps refreshing. So if you press C, you'll get a little bit more detail about the command column and all this top processor listed here. So let's try to understand uh, how to read this top output and how to uh, derive the conclusion whether the database is really uh, under stress or it is serving normal, because this will give an indication whether you really need to go and dig deep and look at the database also. Because if your server is not uh, overloaded, it is working a normal CPU and normal load, the chances are very very less that there is something going on performance wise on your database. There could be something, but this will give one clue whether you have any problem with the database. So the in the top command, the first one is, you see, is the time, and this is the uptime. It is this server is up for last uh, 4 hours and 38 minutes, and one user connected, and there's a load average of 0.31, 0.68, and 0.87. Now, what is this load average, and when to say like this server is not working normal? What is the load average you're looking for? For me, it is 0.69. There'll be bigger server, you might see load average 1520 also. I have an example from an accelerated server also. So this load average gives for last minute average 5 minutes, and um, this is last minute average. This is 5 minutes, is 15 minutes average. So if you want to understand this load average and you understand this percentage CPU and the percentage CPU here, so you need to understand one thing: how many CPUs we have in the server, and how it impacts the performance of the server, and also to understand how many cores you have per CPU. And also you need to understand all this terminology like physical CPU, number of cores, and logical CPU or threads and socket. There are, now you keep hearing about this dual core and quad core. Dual core means there are two core in the CPU. So what are the things and how does it affect the performance? So I have kind of put together a little bit of images just to better understand it. If you understand this one, then like making a sense of load average or percentage CPU will be much easier. So this is physical CPU is like that one CPU chipset that you get, that is physically available. Now in recent times we have one physical CPU can have multiple cores. So if it's a dual core, then one physical CPU can have two core physical core. That means in one physical CPU you can have now two processor uh, can work parallelly. Now this physical CPU is kind of attached to your motherboard or your server or your laptop through a slot that is called socket. So your one socket um, will have one physical CPU. Then physical CPU can have multiple cores, and each core can have multiple threads, which is called logical CPU. Like logically, programmatically, you are one core is working on two processes at the same time using multi threads. So if you want to know how many CPU you have uh, in effect, you have to calculate the number of logical CPU or threads you have. So I have one example. So there are some commands also available to find out how many CPU and some information about your CPUs. One nproc will tell you how many. It'll just give you a number, the total number of CPUs. LSCP will give you more detail about your CPU information, and catproc CPU info, it will just list out CPU information for each of the core processor. So I have some output for that. If you look at it, this is the virtual machine. I have this pointer option. So this is the virtual machine I have with two two processor. So if you look at this here, there's one socket and two core per circuit, and I have that means I have, since only one physical CPU can be in one socket, that means my physical CPU has two cores. So this two core per socket and only one thread per core. So if you want to calculate the total number of processor you have, so you have to multiply all this. Say one socket, each socket has two cores. Like these two cores are in one physical CPU, and then each core has one thread. So one into one, total is two. So I have two CPUs here. This is one example of a accelerator machine. Here you can see there are two sockets. Each socket has 24 CPU core, and each core has two threads. That means 24 into 2, that is 96 CPUs. So these are 90 physical CPU. So that means uh, that's the server can work on 96 work uh, task at a time if it is 100% utilized. If it is, let's say one task is not utilizing 100% of the CPU, then it can work on more because the CPUs work on like cycles, how many cycles per second it can do. Each cycle is like in a very, very high level and simplistic way, you can understand that the CPU reads from the memory, the instruction, process it, and gives back the output is like one cycle. So how many cycles can do? If a task is utilizing 100% of the cycles of the CPU, then it's like 100% used. If not, let's say it's using 50%. So, so one task is using 50%, another task is using 25%, another task is 25%. So CPU, the one threads can actually in effect can work on three tasks by uh, dividing between the cycles. So so if it is like I have 96 CPUs, and if I have so I have 96 tasks which is using like 100% of the CPUs, then then my server can work 96 tasks at a time. So that's how this percentage CPU and load average are calculated. So if you go back my previous slide here, 0.23. So this is my virtual machine. So I have two CPUs. So if my load average says it is 2, then that means server is like 100% utilized. This is a load average. The 0.23 means my uh, CPU is, it's like what, point 0.2 of point 0.2 of the, only point 0.2 is point 0.2 is used out of two CPUs. Similarly, um, so if you go back to my server and look at this, now it is 0.71, 0.82, 0.68. So if you press 1, so you can see this both the CPU here. This CPU is 10% used, this CPU is 3%, 2.2% used. So I will also come back and talk about the CPUs you listed here. Well, let's go line by line here. So there are 304 tasks, 2 are running and 302 are sleeping, 0 stopped and 0 zombie. So task can be in different state, like it could be running, like the CPU is actually working on it, or there will be a runnable, like the tasks are now ready to be run, about to be run by the CPU. Sleeping is like they're waiting for some resources, or they're waiting for some instruction from the application, or the application has forcefully put them to sleep. So they're not working on the CPU is not working on them. They're just waiting for some resources, because CPUs are coming as so fast now that when your application or your process does a read from the disk or read from memory, um, so that is much slower than how the speed at which CPU can work. So most of the time, most of the tasks will be in sleeping state. And stopped is like if you have manually forcefully stopped some task, it will show up here. And zombie process is like if a child process is left orphaned, because if the parent process is killed and the child process is left orphaned, it will show up as zombie. Uh, so this will give you an indication how many processes are in running state. So if there are many processes running at the same time, so it will show up here. Percentage CPU, of course, you have a US is user process, so how much a percent is used in user process, how much CPU percentage is used with the system process, which is like a kernel internal Unix internal processes. Nice is the process with running with a priority, like how nice the process is, so that you can go up and go and look at internet a priority and nice processes, nice values, and get a better understanding of it. I'm just explaining very high level with respect to which is like related to performance. And idle is like how much CPU is idle. So basically, you just can, instead of looking at each individual value, you can directly come to this idle and see how much percent is idle. So the rest of the, if you deduct this number from 100, that is the percentage CPU is used. That use CPUs could be with different things, like user process, system process with weight. If you see high number on the weight, that means mostly weight will be on the IO. So there is something going on with the IO. There's a hardware interrupt, software interrupt. This is steel process. Uh, so these are different places where CPU could be used. So instead of looking at everything, so you just look at what is my idle, what is the percentage of idle CPU is. So that will give an indication if it is. Then I'll see my CPU 0 is, first CPU is 91% idle, second one is 81% idle. So they're pretty much idle anyway. And this memory is 2965, around 3 GB total, 31 MB free, 951 used, and this is buffer cache. So here also you just look at how much is used. This buffer cache also is available for use. So don't think that my server has only 30 MB free. And same goes for swap space also. As you know, swap is used only when the physical memory RAM is like kind of 100 completely used, and The server needs more space, so it will use the disk space as a swap space. So if any point you are using swap space, it's not a good idea. So for me, it is showing 27173 free and 1378. I think one point it was used, swap space is used. So this will give you, if you normally you look at this load average, you look at this CPU percentage, how much is idle, what is the IO weight, and possibly memory uses also. There are different other commands available for memory uses. And you'll have an idea mostly from load average and CPU idle percentage. You'll have an idea whether your server is loaded or not. If you see like your server is highly used, uh, it, it is like loaded, then the next question would be which process, which task is causing high CPU load on the server. So that will show up here. This is the process ID, that is the process ID of the operating system of the process, and this is the owner which has started the process. This is same like priority and priority of the process, nice value of the process. um, this is virtual, the things memory, but only thing to this is status of it, and the only thing to look at is percentage CPU. So again, each process will use one CPU. That means what it says is this process using 23% or 8% of one CPU. So sometimes when your server is loaded, you will see some process on the top here using 100%, 99%, or 95% of the CPU. That doesn't mean it is using the 100% of the entire CPU of the server. It's like each process will use each process will use one processor to complete its task. So the percentage, the number that you see here, it is the percentage of CPU for that single processor. So if you, it is using, this process is using 10% of one CPU, this is using 5% of one CPU, likewise. So now, let's say you see one process is showing up as in the top, which like 99%, 70%, 80% CPU is using. And if you see your, it, if you can very well know whether it is a database related or it is OS related. If it's a, like for example, this is VKTM process is showing as like 7% is using 10%. So then you can troubleshoot like, and you'll also see whether the user session, a database session, then you can find out what SQL the query is running. So we'll try to simulate that situation. But if it's not a database related, it could be something, for example, genome shell is running here, genome terminal server that is using a lot of CPU, for example. Then you can contact your system admin and they can troubleshoot. And then it is not a, that means there is a performance problem on the server, but it is not a database related. So it, so that could be causing a slowness on the application also. So that you need to contact your system admin and let them have a look at the server and what it is doing. Now let's come to the point where you see a process is taking CPU, a database session. So yeah, and I'll show you a query how you can find out what exactly that query is doing, that process is doing. So I have a table. Okay, so let's log into the database. I have a table which is a copy of DB objects, but I have like inserted a lot of records from the DB object. So it has, so let's see how many records it has. So I've loaded all the records from DB objects to T2 multiple times. So it has now more than 1 million records. So now you can see if I'm doing a select. So this session is showing on the top 20 is using 29%. Now it's gone because I got the output. It is 3.7 million records. So the moment I do a select select count star, you can see this session is showing as a um, showing in the top using 58% CPU. This is my process ID. This process ID, let's say 6714 is my process ID. This process ID, you can actually uh, 67. Yeah, so that query is now completed, so we don't see it now. Let's say we want to run it again, and you can see 6714 has come in the top. So yeah, so 6714 you can do a ps minus ef 6714. So this is the process that we're talking about, and that is because something's running, some big query is running when query on a big table which with no index, nothing. So that is taking a lot of CPU that you see it in the top now. Now let's say you are troubleshooting. Now you want to see uh, what it is doing, right? So let's do that. Let's log into one more session and we'll. So here is the query. I'll put it in the description. So you have to combine $v session with $g process. $g is for the RAG database, but it'll work for standalone also. And this is the PID, server process ID, that we saw from the top output. And then it's in $g process, it is SPID. And then you combine with session using address process. In $g process, it is addr column, and in session $g session, it is p.addr. So you combine these two and then try to get all the session detail, like what is the username, which machine it is coming from, what SQL text is running, if there are any blocking session, all that you can get it. Let's run this when our process is running. So let's run this. So we know it is 6714. So this one 6714. So we'll when the process is running, we'll see what it is doing. So okay, no, you don't see anything here. Let me run this select again. See, now it shows up again. Is using 60-70%. So now if I go here, I'll input this 6714. See, you can see what is the SID, session ID, what's the username, what the machine, and it is running the select count star from T2, and it is waiting. Last call ET is left for how long that SQL is running. So it is a quick way to find out, to go to, you run your top command, and if you see a SQL session is taking a lot of CPU, just run this command. It'll show you what SQL it is running, what it is waiting for how long it, and if there is any blocking session. There is no blocking session here, but sometimes you might see blocking session also that will show up here. We'll talk about blocking session also in one of the session. And yeah, so this is from the top, and this is a quick way, and this quick trick how you can quickly find out which session is causing trouble. And apart from top, we have few other utility in Unix where you can look at look at the performance. One of the more popular is SAR command. If you just put side, if it is installed in some server, some of your server, it may not be installed. So if you want, you can talk to system admin and install it. Just do SAR and hit enter. It will show you like every 10 minutes what was the CPU percentage, CPU and idle percentage. And they're different. Like if you do star minus Q, it will show you load average. So this is a good utility to just look at the historical. Let's say you had a problem now, CPU is high, then you can run this command to know from what time the problem started. So that will also give you a good clue to find out what happened. Why the server was running fine like till 8 a.m. and after that it started going bad. Why the CPU started going up. Also, look at uh, you can look at previous days also and do a comparison and whether what was the performance like yesterday or last week and what it is now. So this is load average and SAR minus R is for memory to look at how much memory is used. SAR minus B is for your disk IO. What is the write read per second, write per second, and block read per second, block write per second. So this is also very useful utility to um, just look at the historical data and for comparison, and it will also most of the time it will give you a clue like how it is where it could be going wrong in terms of performance. So if you want to run get the report from the previous day for the history, you can go to the place where the this SAR logs are logs located. For me, it is where log SA. For you, it could be the same also. And if you do this, you'll find for every day SA01 for first of the month, second and third. So let's say I want to know for SA02 minus F. If you want, you can give the complete path because I'm already there, so it's optional for me. So SA02, you give the file name. These are all log file. So it will show you for yesterday. So yeah, so minus F, so it will give you for date. So you can look at history also. Similarly, for VM start is one of the commands. You can use this command to run like twice for each 2 seconds. Or IO start for VM start is for everything like it'll give you for memory, swap space, IO, system, CPU, all information in one place. IO start for is also for your IO performance. So yeah, so also when you're looking at server performance, just look at your disk space also. Sometimes uh, that disk space also creates problem. You see something is 100% full or close to 100%. Just take a look at that whether that is causing any problem. So that's all about I think. Yeah, so this is what I was talking about. Um, that time, this is from one of the live Exadata machine where you can see this processor using 87%, 79%, 70%. These are all Oracle sessions. And this load average is 15. Here you see load average is 0.71. You might think um, which is low, but here load average is 15, which is low or high. That you can find out only by looking at how many CPUs you have. In this machine, you have 96 CPUs. So load average 15 is very low. Here we have two CPU. So 0.71 also is low. But if we see load average 15 here, this is really bad. So this load average high or low, you can only decide by looking at the number of CPUs. Same goes for this percentage CPU here. Look at this. This process using 87% of a single CPU. It has 96 CPU. This process is using 79% of a single CPU. So that's all for today's video. Hope you understood and learned something today. So thanks a lot. Bye bye.